As a teacher of language and literature, I'm implicitly required to use 8 words when 2 would suffice, thereby snubbing my nose at my Scottish forebears. Rest assured that the intelligent organizers who invited me did so with a clearly expressed time limit. My seniors are currently taking their mock exams in the run-up to their real exams in May, and we've been emphasizing the need to frame terms to the point where I may have suggested that they get a tattoo that says, frame terms, establish premises. Asking a literature teacher then to define love, the one unifying concept whose presence, absence, or pursuit therein is the one unifying driver of nearly every conceivable narrative across tech types, is almost guaranteed to elicit a long-winded answer. All of this is to say that discussing the happy Venn diagram across friendship, love, and support is a maddening topic to approach because of the very ethereality and nebulous nature of the terms themselves. A more efficient approach to all this would have been simply to have started with, love is complicated. Frankly, the answer was hiding in plain sight, but were it not for the nature of all things TED, I would never have pursued the requisite reflection to put all the pieces together. In this one instance, I can say that I stand abreast with Tennyson's Ulysses, and that my answer is a part of being all that I have met and is a logical byproduct of a series of life experiences. The pursuit of social justice was well instilled within me, and it has become one of my most core beliefs. My desire and need to make the world a better place is why, following graduate school, I joined the Peace Corps. I lived in a village in the former Soviet Republic of Turkmenistan that had become an independent nation only 7 years earlier. My village boasted a population of roughly 1,000, with no paved roads, no street lights, no places of commerce beyond pop-up shacks that sold Coke, chips, cookies, vodka, and cigarettes. I earned $50 per month and lived with the kindest family on earth beyond my own. My salary was the equivalent of a local teacher, but I quickly learned that mine was different because I actually received money rather than the promise of it. I also ran headfirst into soul-crushing realities. Turkmenistan is highly patriarchal, so much so that the common girls' names of Ogilshat and Ogilgarik literally translate to I'd be happy if I had a son, or I need a son, respectively. Corruption and cronyism were rife, so it was known that outliers notwithstanding, only males of prominent families or those with financial means to afford bribes would go to university. Within this, of course, Dickensian realities of temporary escape were as predictable as they were heart-wrenching. A bottle of vodka cost as little as 5 cents, and a night's worth of heroin was available for about 40 cents. Alcoholism and addiction were rampant, with follow-on issues of abuse and forced prostitution. Without university or access to opportunities beyond the village, my students were rather fated to enter or marry into that life, depending on their gender. In short, my Pollyanna ideas of making the world a better place had seemingly met an unstoppable force of bleakness. That Turkmenistan, however, is the contextual Turkmenistan. It's not the one that I know and remember. It's not the one that changed my life, and it's not the one that made me a better man. The one I know is founded upon shared values, hope, and incremental progress. That Turkmenistan is the one of my Turkmen colleagues who remain among the best friends I've ever had or can hope to have. We made model lessons, visited schools, and had countless cups of tea with any local teacher within a 50-kilometer radius who would let us. Local politicians loved having proof of new initiatives, and glossy pictures of their students interacting with native speakers made them look good. By the time springtime rolled around and we began discussing the likely choices our students would make over the summertime so that we could help keep them on the straight and narrow, my colleagues had already developed broad networks of support from local teachers and politicians. What did I think of organizing an English camp, they said. Did I know any other native speakers who could contribute? Could we make it so it was helpful for both students and teachers? Yes. Yes, of course we could. People talk badly about the bandwagon effect with reason, but it can go the other way. When people heard what was going on in our village, we received provincial support, and then governmental support, and then corporate support. Students got to have authentic camp experiences while being immersed in English. Teachers got regular access to new methods and mentors, and resources were strategically acquired, licensed, and legally registered to facilitate sustainability and shared access. The proverbial cherries on top were a per participant cost of roughly $2, and in future years, when unmarried female teachers were allowed by their families to participate. The thing is, though, in the midst of these projects, I wasn't approaching them to make the world a better place, but because I clearly saw how they would help my friends and our students, all of whom I still love very deeply. There was no me in the equation. It was about them. And I was smart enough to accept their invitation to make it an us. I always wanted to ask my colleagues why they wanted to do these model lessons, immersive camp, resource center. Was all of this just to build a CV, or to leverage a strengthened reputation? Maybe, but as a byproduct. What I do know is that when they first proposed the model lessons, the de facto first domino, their bottom line purpose was rooted in the Turkmen proverb, everything that we have, we are borrowing from our children, thereby making the inherent urgency and humanity an undeniably persuasive appeal to ethos. My role within all this was, frankly, simply that of a catalyst and at best a facilitator. I have also been the receiver of friendship and love. I've been on both sides of development in terms of social support and societal progress. In 2010, my wife and I began teaching at the Schutz American School in beautiful Alexandria, Egypt. We worked and lived on a small campus full of all the resources one would expect at an affluent international school that, fun fact, was the first international school opened on the continent of Africa. Alexandria abuts the Mediterranean, and its Corniche is very quietly one of the world's most underrated wonders. Alexandria proper is also a very small city geographically, and its roughly 5 million residents live densely within an area roughly 20 miles long by 10 miles wide. Over the decades, the city grew around our posh school, and when we lived there, we were in the heart of a working class neighborhood, also called Schutz. So every school has mottos and mission statements, but Schutz is really serious about its motto, Schutz is family. Local staff worked there for decades, and alumni sent their children there. Schutz as a school legitimately treats everyone as part of its school community, and I can't overstate how intertwined it was. Schutz the school, however, was a completely different realm than Schutz the neighborhood on the other side of the walls. Students and teachers would typically eat at the Four Seasons or upscale restaurants on the Corniche. But residents would be profoundly affected if the price of food increased by an Egyptian pound that at the time was roughly 15 cents. Students were driven to school by their personal drivers. Residents would queue for the glacially moving tram that would transport them for roughly half an Egyptian pound. On the 25th of January 2011, everything changed. The Arab Spring had begun. Our campus was closed on Wednesday and Thursday, and we were strongly encouraged not to leave our gated community. The regime cut off the internet for the nation on Thursday. Weekends in Egypt are Friday and Saturday, with Friday, of course, being the holy day for Muslims. Within 10 minutes of services ending that Friday, all the police stations in the city were on fire. Within our gated community, nestled in the thick of a neighborhood literally populated by the marginalized poor, we were safe and comfortable playing Frisbee and watching movies while incessantly checking Al Jazeera on TV for updates just like the rest of the world. Even we knew that when the sun went down, chaos would ensue. Part of the perks of working at the school was that the kitchen would provide meals for us, including dinner. And mealtime on that night happened to be in the gray area between sunset and dark. Casually, but very noticeably, the groundskeeper and one of his staff went into the kitchen, quickly and decisively gathering all of the knives, and as we watched through the window, passing them out to the local staff. He came back in to say, Mish Mishkela, no problems, we just want everybody to be safe, and by the way, do you happen to have any empty wine or liquor bottles? Well, of course we did, and in just a few minutes, we had all gathered an embarrassing number to give him. None of us questioned why he wanted them. It was not really a time to ask questions. In the blink of an eye, the staff had turned them all into Molotov cocktails, making a fire line to siphon gas from the cars, prepare and make them. Under any other circumstance, the efficiency of the process would have been the takeaway. But at that time, it was an open question if it was more surreal or terrifying. It became dark. We put a movie on in a top-floor apartment, and the men raided the PE closet for baseball bats so that when the gates crashed, we could literally go down swinging. Tick-tock. Nothing happened. Seconds felt like hours. Tension was palpable. Every possible movie you can imagine with scenes of hordes crashing through the gates or the castle to swarm a city went through my mind. Nothing happened. Then suddenly, from a loudspeaker from a mosque near our school, came an urgent and clear command. My Arabic is rather minimal, but in situations like this, anybody can understand tone. Immediately, exactly like in the movies, swarms of men emptied out of the apartment building surrounding our school. Everyone had his own makeshift weapon. Wooden clubs with nails and de facto maces, scimitars, knives on poles and de facto pikes. It was medieval. And they were all running towards us with the adrenaline-fueled roar of infantry charges, just like you see in the movies. But this wasn't a movie. Our campus and its walls formed an easy line of defense for the crossroads into the neighborhood. What the imam had said was, people of Schutz, defend your neighborhood. Those hordes had come to protect us, and in turn, their families. The regime had tried to make the population demand law and order by releasing all the maximum security prisoners from jail, and there was neither police nor any other authority besides the people themselves to maintain safety. Neither cars nor people were allowed entry into the neighborhood unless they could say who exactly they were visiting, and then that person came and personally vouched for them. It was an ingenious system, and it worked flawlessly and efficiently. While the watch remained until dawn, within an hour it had become much more akin to a festival, albeit one that at any time, if troublemakers were to come, would have erupted into violence. Mubarak left office in early February. Egypt entered considerable transition, and its political progress is a conversation for people more qualified than I am. What I do know is that in its aftermath, alumni, students, the board, and select teachers worked furiously to break down at least the metaphorical wall separating Schutz the school from Schutz the neighborhood. To this day, this is the only committee for which I have volunteered, and I've never been on one before or since in which everyone was prepared for meetings. Everyone actively communicated between them, and everyone chased down support. Ultimately, we created a summer school for neighborhood children, providing lessons in English and Arabic, access and training to technology, and a soccer tournament on our pitch. I'm proud to say that this project is still ongoing, now including participation and support from both the British and French international schools of Alexandria. The school motto is every bit as vibrant as it is now redefined: Schutz is family. In spite of all the privilege that comes from being white, middle-class male, Western, and well-educated, it took living in a remote third-world village, being in a revolution, and this opportunity to reflect on their connections to understand love. My point within all this is really just a reboot of Plato's. Love ranges from platonic love of friends and family members to intimate and passionate love with our spouses or significant others, to love of mankind because of our shared humanity. It is impossible to separate love from friendship, and without love, society cannot be nurtured or developed, making universal desires for harmony or peace impossible. Love is rooted in inclusivity and empathy. Working from others' perspectives can only occur when we take time to understand them, and that comes from a place of friendship that fundamentally cannot be extricated from love. When friendship is not present, let's build to it. And this can start with simple bridge-building acts of acknowledging shared humanity. Maybe this is welcoming a crazy foreigner in a village to a cup of tea or a game of chess. Maybe, because everyone in a community is part of your community, it's protecting the vulnerable, even if they had been standoffish. We all believe in making the world a better place, or frankly, we wouldn't be here at this wonderful event. Yes, hone skills. Absolutely, let's learn frameworks and policy applications. We should all develop our capacities to improve and support society. But support and progress cannot be imposed. For it to work, for it to be sustainable, it has to be approached with kindness, empathy, and cooperation, all of which are merely nuanced synonyms for friendship and love. I leave you with the challenge that I give myself each day. In the finest senses of the words and with the deepest of respect, be Turkmen, be Egyptian. Thank you.